Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of council on February 15th, 2024. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We'll begin. Next item on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have one E2 petition for drainage Clausen.
So noted. Next is approval of previous minutes. We're looking at the minutes from February 7th. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, may I have the motion, please?
That the minutes of the regular meeting of council held, that the minutes of the special meeting of council held on February 7th, 2024 be adopted as printed and circulated.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Cerna moves. Councillor Wilson seconds. All in favor? And that's carried. Next, we have presentations. So this week, we are welcoming Mike Kirkfoot and Elle Krevitz from the Small Business Enterprise Center. Welcome to Malahide. We'll turn it over to you, to the podium.
Thank you very much. I'm going to quickly pull my presentation up here. Hopefully seamlessly. Okay. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to our presentation this evening. Thanks for putting us at the beginning of the agenda too. Otherwise, this could end up a little close to my bedtime. So our purpose in coming here today is just to quickly kind of present what we do at the Small Business Enterprise Center. I work for St. Thomas Economic Development. We hold the contract with the province for the small business enterprise centers throughout within Elgin. So through the SBEC, we provide small business support services across all of Elgin County. And so what that means ultimately is that we've got a center. We're based in St. Thomas, but we travel throughout the county and we provide advisement services as well as a few funding programs that we'll talk about in some detail to everybody in Elgin County, any small business owners. So I'm going to hand it over now to Elle, who will tell you a bit about our programs.
Good evening. So the Small Business Center, we have two business advisors that work in our center full time. And primarily what we do is one-on-one. So every business, every stage, every entrepreneur, every goal is totally different. And cookie cutter solutions don't always work. So people come to us for that kind of expert advice for exactly what they need in the moment that they need it. But in addition to those one-on-one consults, we provide a few programs. The first that I want to talk to you about tonight is Summer Company is one of our programs. If any of you have heard of it, it's our youth grant program. It's to help youth age 15 to 29 start a business in the summer months. Every year, the province gives us 10 grants of $3,000 each to support these young people across our county. And they do really remarkable things. They start businesses. Some of them do better than others, and that's okay. But 2 years ago, we had a group of 10 participants that collectively made $70,000 in 4 months. That doesn't include the $30,000 we gave them in grants, and they're huge economic generators for our community, as well as retaining them and giving them hope and excitement and enthusiasm about the future of work here in our county. So we've had great people in that program. We've seen great results, and often it's not about what they do in that program, it's what they go on to do. So a lot of them carry on with their businesses or go on to start other ventures or buy other businesses and become really great entrepreneurs and contributors to our communities. The other program we have, so I'll just say, if you know any young people who are returning to school in the fall, university, college, high school, or something alternative, please pass them one of these postcards so they can go online and check their eligibility and submit their interest. We are taking those applicants right now, and it is a first come, first serve program. So if you know any young people who are a bit entrepreneurial but need a little support to do it, or have a creative hobby and want to learn how to make it a business, we would love to connect with them. And then our Starter Company Plus program is our other grant program. This is for adults, so anyone over the age of 18, new or existing businesses that are looking to invest in something that will help them start or expand their business. So it's a $5,000 grant, which we recognize is not the total amount you need to start a business, but we really try to provide wraparound supports and create an incubator for a cohort of 8 people twice a year to go through and launch their business with all that support of mentorship, advice, group peer support, learning, and beyond. So it's a great program. Starter Company Plus, that's this one. And we are actually taking applications until the end of March for that program as well. So again, if you can think of a business here in your municipality that is trying to do something, trying to get something off the ground, please hand this to them. They can go right onto our website and submit their eligibility form, and we'll start working with them to see if they're a good fit for the program. So that's two of the most direct asks I have for you today, is to think about businesses here that we can better support and to help invite them into our programs. And then I'll talk about one other one, and then I'll pass it back to Mike. The other program we have is Foodpreneur Advantage. This is actually a regional partnership of SPECs from Southwestern Ontario, so Windsor, London, Guelph, all around, and it's focused specifically on consumer packaged good businesses. So helping them scale and get off the ground. So think hot sauce, think mushrooms, think, what are some of the other ones? We've had Misty Glen participate in the program. So helping businesses that are creating packaged food goods scale with a ton of expertise from all over the region. It's a pretty powerful program. And again, those connections are key to get into retail distribution. So a really cool program, but that's basically actually just a spin-off of the Starter Company Plus program that we've done. So.
And then, so one thing I did want to note as well, one-on-one consult. So this is outside of any specific program. Any entrepreneur that's interested in either like work on their existing business or on starting something new, or just kind of wants to explore, kick the tires of entrepreneurship, can come in and sit down with us. There's never any fee for any of our services. So we'll sit down with them. Either we can come out and meet them somewhere in your community, or they're welcome to join us in St. Thomas. And we can kind of talk through everything. What's the thing that you say? You're like, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a therapist, but I can pretend to be all three, or something like that. And that's kind of the truth of it. Business advice is not a one size fits all thing. And so depending on where people are in their journey, sometimes they need more specific technical advice. They're needed to be pointed in the direction of a professional. Like we're not going to give you legal advice, but we can connect you with a lawyer if you need one. And some of the time you just need a sounding board. You need someone to help you with the emotional struggles sometimes of running a business. So that is something that we offer. Lastly, as of 2021, we also operate the Horton Farmers Market in St. Thomas. So this formerly, it's actually an interesting story. This property was donated to the city decades ago. It was actually originally founded as a farmers market in like 1859 or something like that. It was donated to the city of St. Thomas with a condition on title that it could only be used primarily as a farmers market. And so it is still until today. I think it was unused for a long time. In 2004, it was kind of booted back up. And then through COVID, the structure they had kind of faltered. So we were asked if we wanted to take it on, and we did. Since then, we've more than doubled the revenue that farms receive by participating in the market. At the peak of the season, we have in the ballpark of like 80 businesses that come and vend at the market. So honestly, it's as much as it's in St. Thomas, it's very much farmers in Elgin County that benefit from and feed into this market. So a little pet project of mine right now, I'm working to get a commercial kitchen put into the Horton Farmers Market. One of the barriers we see when we're talking with food businesses initially wanting to start up is always access to a kitchen. Unless they're lucky and they've got like a friend who owns a restaurant, or sometimes if they're a part of a faith community, they can access a kitchen. Or your community actually has a commercial kitchen that lots of our entrepreneurs have accessed in the past. But it remains a barrier. And so our goal is to put a commercial kitchen in the Horton Farmers Market that people can use for food service during market days. So if they're thinking about starting up a restaurant, they can try out their recipes to real live humans out in the wild. They'll also be able to use the market for production. So if they're a baker or something, they need a commercial space to make scones or bagels or whatever they need to. They want to be able to sell to other businesses. It has to be a certified space, so they'll be able to do that in the farmers market as well. And then our hope also is with that facility, we want to be able to offer food education. So like preserving, cooking. Some of it could be like very fancy cooking. Some of it could be how to make a very inexpensive dinner, something like that. So trying to kind of increase nutritional literacy, let's call it. A quick high-level view of our funding mix. Now, if you see some of the reports that we've given to Elgin County Council in the past, you'll notice that there sometimes are differences in how we show our numbers. And the answer is sometimes we pull out some of our own wages. So my salary doesn't actually, none of it's paid by the Small Business Enterprise Center. That's true also of our marketing person that contributes probably a third to half of her time, depending on the time of year, to marketing the SPEC. Those are covered by St. Thomas EDC, but just kind of running through it. So we have $255,000 a year we get from the province, 110 of which is directly grants that are distributed out into the community. And then the rest is core funding, a bit for marketing, but mostly for staff. And then contributions from St. Thomas EDC. This figure does include basically the estimate of how much of some of our time goes into it that isn't sort of on the books in this organization. 50,000 we get from Elgin County, and another 30,000 between sponsorship for events and event revenue is where the rest of that comes from. I'll let Elle talk about some of our outcomes.
So in 2023, we helped start 91 businesses, create 254 jobs, and we did 760 consults with just 2 business advisors. This is a busy time. We love working with businesses, but it was just under 400 unique businesses across the city and the county. So pretty impressive stuff. And I'm not going to dwell on this because what's better than numbers is stories. And so I wanted to share a story of somebody that we've worked really closely with. If you know Lambert and Ann Cook, they started Cardinal Creek Farms in 2022, and they have participated in a lot of different things. So you might not know that Lambert is actually a full CPA accountant and has run his own private practice. He built it up and has since acquired other accounting practices to now have a total of a team of 7, which is pretty impressive. So some of these more quiet entrepreneurship stories happening too, but we also get to work with Ann, who's running the farm and gets to sell her goods through the Horton Farmers Market. And we've helped her with all kinds of different things, from marketing support to getting more CSA members and getting more awareness out there too. So really interesting kind of pair, a dynamic duo of sorts, and very interesting different businesses, but really complementary. And we've really pulled them into the business community and helped them get more acquainted with other small businesses, other opportunities to grow. And they're just a really fun group to work with. And they've grown a ton in the last 2 years that they've been running Cardinal Creek. So, and the other nice thing I wanted to highlight with Lambert is because he's a CPA, he does actually give back to the SPEC, and he does do a lot of workshops for us, which is a really nice kind of full circle moment too, from when he first reached out to be like, I think I'm going to start my own accounting practice. So really great to see that. And I'll let Mike finish it off.
Okay. So we came here to give you guys information today, but we also sort of have some calls to action that we want to put out to you, right? Basically, we want you to help us help you and help your community to the extent that we can. So the first thing, Elle touched on this when we were talking about our programs, is tell your local businesses to reach out to us. So if you know a kid with that entrepreneurial spark in their eye, like, send them to us. Let us work with them. If you know a business owner that's struggling and needs advice, or one that's starting up and needs support or funding, whatever that looks like, send them our way. We want to engage. Just the virtue of the region we have to cover means that typically we have slightly less strong networks the further we get away from where we're based. And so this is something that we feel is a weakness that we want to correct, and that's why we're here talking to you guys today. We also specifically want to engage with you and want you to engage with us about ideas that you think will work best to support the small businesses in your community, right? Like I said before, business advice is not a one-size-fits-all thing, and that's true for communities just like it is for entrepreneurs. So any way that we can kind of provide better support in Malahide, tell us. We want to. And then lastly, let us know about events that are going on. We do our best to kind of keep an eye on things and try to show up where and when we can. But sometimes really cool things happen and we find out afterwards and we're like, darn, we wish we could have been there. It would have been nice to engage with maybe like small businesses in action. Maybe there's a fair that people are at, or whatever that looks like. We want to be there. So in closing, those are our calls to action. Elle's passed out some material on some of our programs, and I think a business card as well. So feel free to pass that on to entrepreneurs. Or if you have any questions for us, we'll happily take them now, but also in the future. Any thoughts, anything that you think we should know about, or any questions you have for us about what we do, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you very much. I'll open it up for comments or questions. Councilor Wilson.
This is definitely some stuff that I didn't know existed. I'm not sure if it's really, it's probably not really for what we're doing, but I think it would be very useful for a lot of different businesses trying to be up and coming, and with what's coming with the battery plant and new suppliers and that sort of thing and new business opportunities, that it's great for someone to be giving this sort of advice. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one comment on that. Generally, it's not mature businesses like yours that choose to access our services, although sometimes we do get people reaching out for succession planning. I think that hasn't been a problem in your family, but certainly in lots of cases of mature businesses, that's where we'll start to see them. They'll get to the point where they're like, we feel we should have started this 5 or 10 years ago. We haven't. Here's where we're at. What do we do now? And that is something that we can help with as well.
Thank you. And I presume you reach out to like in high schools and college and yeah, so yeah, because I can see it's hard to know when there's an idea sitting somewhere, right? So, because they haven't opened a business yet, right? So.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, we do have difficulty generally finding post-secondary students for our summer company program, just because other than Fanshawe and St. Thomas, there's no post-secondary right in the community. And most of the programs at the Fanshawe campus in St. Thomas are accelerated trades-focused things. So we do present there occasionally, but we don't get a lot of traction. But the high schools were in every season, in all of them. And I think this year and last year, we've done more presentations than we ever have before. So we definitely like to get them while they're young. Careers classes we try to get into, but honestly, like any class, we're happy to present to. So if anyone has any teachers who they think would be interested in this, also connect us with them, and we're happy to present.
And if we have businesses, I know we had a presentation a couple of months ago from the county as well. And so sometimes I can see from a business perspective, it's hard to know. So everybody wants to help me, that's nice, but who should I call? So would it be fair to say that in your case, it is very much the startup or the small business that would be the focus, that we could direct people to you?
I would say most commonly, we do see a range of sizes of business. We do deal lots with smaller businesses. It kind of depends what type of support the business needs. So probably in that conversation with the county, they would have contrasted our services with those of EBRC, the Elgin Business Resource Center. Both of us do provide a bit of overlapping service through the advisement that we do. They don't have any grant programs, so that is a slight difference, but they also are a lender. So if you're looking for bridge financing, like we can help you make the spreadsheet that you're going to need, but eventually you're going to have to talk to a lender, right? We're not going to cut those loans ourselves. So, yeah, definitely not. So in general, that is more of who we see, but not as a rule. Honestly, we've dealt with businesses at various sizes.
And it might be useful as a tool if all the different EgDev groups had like a one sheet that would say, if you're looking for this, and to show that you're not competing with each other, that you have different specialties, and sometimes it's personalities, or like one's a lender, but the other one's not. I think that kind of one-stop shop, that, a postcard like this that actually has those, I think that would probably get even more uptake. As opposed to feeling sometimes you're overwhelmed because there are too many resources and then you access none, right? So maybe something to consider.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. And actually, I think last year, late in the year, with Elgin County, we put together an ad that went out in, I forget which magazine it was, but there was like a one-pager that was made up. So it exists, it's out there. I don't know that we have it on print materials, but maybe we should. So that's a good suggestion.
Any other comments or questions? Not seeing any, so thank you so much for letting us know. We'll try to keep you busy.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the rest of your evening. So can we have the motion to receive the presentation, please?
That the presentation of Mike Kirkfleet and Al Kravitz of Small Business Enterprise Center regarding business services available for Malahide residents be received.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Wilson moved, Counselor Lee seconds. All in favor? That's carried. Next on the agenda, we move into the section with reports. The first report is from the Director of Fire and Emergency Services, Director Spoor. Over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This first report today is for our last quarter report from 2023. Nothing really here out of the ordinary for this report. Calls were in line with last year's last quarter, and there wasn't much significant change. One thing on this report I would like to highlight was our public education and fire prevention activities. Well, we really focus on the Save by the Beep and Test Your Smoke Alarm Day. The province is really dealing with a number of fire deaths in this province. It's been upticking for the last 20 years, and last year we hit the high of 133 fire deaths in the province, although that was for 2022. In 2023, it was a little bit less, and they haven't got the final numbers yet, but it's still not really good. Just a note there, I read an article today that came out in the Firefighting in Canada magazine. So the city of Hamilton has put a report out that of their 208 house fires they had last year, 107 of them didn't have working fire alarms. So it's a staggering number. And if we could keep focusing on that with our team, we'll keep doing that to keep the residents in the province safe, or in our township here safe. So that's pretty much it for that report there. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Council members, any questions, comments? Seeing none, the motion please.
That report number F-2401 entitled Emergency Services Activity Report Quarterly Report, October to December, be received.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. Councillor Serna moves. Deputy Mayor Widner seconds. All in favor? That's carried. And then you have another report for us.
I'm gonna
Director
keep it
Spoor.
rolling here.
Yep.
So this next report is my year-end report from 2023. So this encompasses the whole year, just in review, basically. So our call volume last year was at 327, which is a little bit slower than the last few years, but still in line. Our fire losses were pretty low for dollar wise, with only $521,000 in losses, and we still had nearly a $7.5 million worth of dollars saved for the township. Fire prevention education team were out throughout the year, attending and working at over 40 different events all over the township. Attending these events had the team interact with over 2,500 people. Our fire service recoveries increased overall last year with the council passing their new cost recovery bylaw in February. We've invoiced over $107,000 in 2023 from motor vehicle collisions, compared to less than $24,000 in 2022. Another good return in investment was our driver certification program, which has allowed us to do driver training in DZ licensing for the Elgin and Middlesex Fire Departments, as well as the Ontario Provincial Police. In 2023, we invoiced $39,650 for these courses, and we're able to deliver this training for our firefighters and our roads workers with just a minimal cost. Overall, we were able to invoice cost recoveries close to $198,000 for the 2023 year. Emergency management, we had the drag line deployed to mitigate ice jamming along the pier, but we did not require any ice breaking in 2023. Unless we have a drastic change in this year's weather, we will maybe not have to break ice again this year. In 2024, we look forward to continuing to find efficiencies and while collaborating with our neighbor municipalities and other stakeholders, and to keep our township and firefighters safe. So that's, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Busy year in a good way.
Yeah.
Prevention, education, that's good. Questions, comments? Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Through to Jeff. I see our average response time is very good. That's an excellent number, 8.09.
Yeah, it's really good. It's so that's from our time from the getting called to the first truck will arrive on scene. It helps when the firefighters live close to the hall. Like I said, the only reason the south station is a little bit different, there's not as many people right located there. We have got some, we've had some slow years in the Lion Station, getting people to be able to volunteer. We've had some good turnout the last 2 years, so we've it's got some numbers up there again, so things have looked really good up there and it's helped out a lot. So.
Okay, you've got a sentence here. Medical calls are not considered within the standard. We must be very close to the same time, I would presume.
Yeah, it's pretty close to there. The medical calls and stuff I think they probably tick a little bit higher. But it's mostly overall, it's the same anyway. They just don't include that in that. So that standard there is meant for the fire marshal's office looks at for NFPA 1720, which is the standard for rural areas, but we have less than so many people less than 500 people per square mile. So we're well in that. So we're in good shape.
Good news. Thank you.
Good job. Dedicated crew. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, may I have a motion?
The report number F-2402 entitled Malahide Fire and Emergency Services 2023 Year-End Report be received, and that the officers appointed for Malahide Fire Services effective January 1st, 2024 are South Station Captains Andrew Lamb and Joseph Durick Jr. and North Station Captains Dennis Johnson.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Cerna moves, Counselor Glinski seconds. All in favor? That's carried. And one more time.
One more
Director
time. So
Spore.
yeah, my next report is just update to council of a grant we've just received from the Fire Marshal's Public Fire Safety Council. They've did a 3-year funding for $750,000 throughout the province. And this is the second year of this funding. So we were able to receive, we were awarded that this year. We received $3,028. This funding is used for electronics, where we can buy electronics to help with that system training. So we're probably going to be doing some displays or something like that for electronic displays for our groups for training. And this has helped out great. This goes along with the funding grant we got from Enbridge just a couple months ago for $5,000. So it helped out getting our money, and it helps out with our training. So good funding is available. We'll take it, and we keep applying as they come on board. So we'll take them. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Seeing none. Motion, please.
The report number F-2403 entitled Fire Marshal's Public Fire Safety Council Certification Grant be received.
Mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Whitney moves, Counselor Glinski seconds. All in favor? And that's carried. Next, we move to our Director of Public Works, Director Godby. We have one petition for drainage. Over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to council. Report PW 2404 is a petition for drainage that has been received by the Township of Malahide as a result of a condition of severance. So if you quickly were to look at page 42 of your agenda package, you'll see a nice little overview map indicating the severance that was previously approved or recommended for approval by this council. One of those conditions was to connect with proper legal and adequate outlet to a municipal drain. So conceptually, at this point, you're looking at the two newly created lots there, the one in the red, one in the green, and a branch of the drain to be extended easterly over to the Simpson drain, so that all the lot drainage as a result of this severance is properly taken care of. So with that, staff have received the petition from the owner of the lot and are looking to assign John M. Spreet from Spreet Associates to be appointed under the Drainage Act to complete the drainage works. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Counselor Glinski?
Madam Mayor, are those duplexes or are they single-family dwellings? Does anyone know?
Dr. Godby?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Councillor Glinski. That was the property being constructed there is going to be a semi-detached home. So side by side duplex, one structure under two separate ownerships. That's why the lots look so narrow. is it's going to be severed down the common wall between the building, separate ownership on each side.
So it is like a duplex.
Yes, like a duplex.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Bill.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Not seeing any. We have the motion.
The report number PW 2404 entitled Petition for Drainage Clausen be received and that John M. Spreet of Spreet Associates Limited be appointed to prepare an engineer's report for the Clausen petition pursuant to sections 5 to 8 of the Drainage Act, RSO 1990.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Glinski moves. Counselor Leach seconds. All in favor? And that's carried. The next set of reports on the agenda is from our Director of Corporate Services Treasurer, Mr. Boylan. Good evening.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is a follow-up to our budget deliberations on February 7th last week. So the 2024 draft budget proposed a 6.77% tax rate increase to generate $571,405 in additional tax dollars. Through the budget deliberation process, we made a couple of changes to the community grants program, as well as reinstating the special area levy, which was removed from the draft budget originally. So those two changes bring us down to a 6.38% rate increase, resulting in additional property taxes of $537,830. On a consolidated basis, we're still assuming that the county is going to be proposing a 3.7% tax rate increase. The province we know is bringing forward a 0. So when you combine that with our 6.38%, property owner in Malahide can expect to pay 4.53% more in property taxes than last year. So what we're asking for tonight is for council to approve the 2024 budget in principle with a notable couple of exceptions. Those being the Springfield Special Area Levy, as well as the East Elgin Community Complex budget estimate specifically relating to capital. So this is a bit different than we've done in the past. We're doing a bit of a phased approval rather than approving it all at once. So the idea will be that council will approve everything except those couple of items, and that will allow staff to proceed with operating and capital work plans without being held up by those items. And it allows council to retain the flexibility to change 2024 property taxes subject to the review of those two exceptions. And so moving forward, we have a 6-step process to finalize the budget. The first 2 steps are tonight. So if you look on the left table, the recommended process is to approve the budget in principle with the 2 exceptions I noted. We'll also pass the user fee bylaw, which is in our bylaws tonight. And then after that, at the next council meeting on March 7th, I can bring forward a special area levy proposal for Springfield. And then ideally, we approve the EECC budget after that, and then do the final budget bylaw. So when you do the budget bylaw, that's when the property taxes are locked in. That's an important distinction because we may need to switch to the alternate process, which I've got in the table on the left. You'll notice, excuse me, you'll notice that the first 3 steps are exactly the same, but what we can do is go ahead and pass the budget and finalize property taxes before we do the EECC budget. How we would do that is simply adopt estimates for what we think the EECC budget will be. We'll lock in property taxes, we'll pass the tax rates bylaw, and then after we can approve the actual EECC budget. So I just wanted to make that distinction. For now, we'll just keep it open. If there's changes to the EECC budget, we'll let it affect our property taxes. But if we're approaching our May deadline of getting our tax rates passed, then we'll switch to the alternate process and just get the budget passed and submitted to the province. That's all I have for tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Very clear. Nicely laid out. Questions or comments? Counselor Wilson.
I like how it's been laid out and how we can go at phases in it, and awesome.
And when we say May, is there a date in May? Is it early May, late May?
The province requires their tax rates prior to June, and so we coordinate that process with the county. So I would say the end of May would be the deadline, roughly speaking.
Great. So we have some wiggle room and at the same time can move on with most of the budget as we have discussed so far. So any further questions or comments? Great. So we'll proceed with the motion.
That report number FIN 2408 titled 2024 Budget Approval be received, and that council approve the amended 2024 draft budget in principle as presented, and that council approve the user fee schedule for 2024 as presented in the 2024 draft budget.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Leach moves, Counselor Wilson seconds. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And Director Boylan, you have another report on the council remuneration for 2023.
Yes, thank you. This is a legislatively required report, simply stating council's remuneration from the calendar 2023 year. I'll note that we did have a revision to our schedule, so I hope everyone had a chance to review that. But aside from that, I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Not seeing any. The motion, please.
The report number FIN 2409 entitled 2023 Council Remuneration and Expense be received.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Wilson moves. Deputy Mayor Widner seconds. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Director Boylan. We'll move to the next report is from Clerk Adams on social media platform update. Please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since 2015, the website and Facebook have served as the main communication channels for the township, with the addition of the YouTube for streaming council meetings. Following our strategic planning sessions, where the significance of improving communication with Malahide landowners was highlighted, staff began exploring various social media platforms to boost our online presence. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on our current status in social media communication and to initiate discussions on expanding our outreach by including additional social media platforms. Following a review of other platforms and consultations with other municipalities, it is suggested to incorporate Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn to the township's communication channels. Our goal is to provide consistent messaging by sharing content across all platforms, making information readily accessible, no matter which platform users prefer. Should council decide to proceed, a revised social media policy that adheres to these practices will be presented at a future council meeting. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Great, thank you. Questions, comments? So if I understood correctly, then the idea would be to replicate the message, just using different platforms just to reach more people potentially.
Yes, that is correct. So we have heard, now that there are multiple platforms, that Facebook is not what everyone's using. The younger generation is, on Instagram or more Twitter, as well as other platforms. So we'll see what the interest is. And the great thing now is that you can post on one and that you can just duplicate on all. So it's not like you're going on each one and having to replicate that content and ensuring that you're doing it everywhere. It just is a click of a button and it goes widespread.
Deputy Mayor Widner, question?
Yeah, it's just a question maybe to Allison. Did we consider using Rumble at all, or is it too controversial a site for us to be on? But I know a lot of people seem to be fed up with YouTube and they go to Rumble. So I'll just ask the question.
In speaking with other municipalities, it seems like those are the standard ones being used right now, that that one is not. It's something, we can certainly look into, but we don't necessarily need to be everywhere all at once. Let's see what these ones do, and we can always revise and revamp as things are ever changing.
Okay, if we got up our views on YouTube, we could probably start making money. There is ways to get better views, guys. A little drama, but if we had 250,000 subscribers, we'd make some money. Thank you.
104. So as part of the policy, would it be worthwhile to also develop then what would be the criteria to decide which platform to use and which ones not to use? I think we're aware of other government agencies who have stopped the use of TikTok, for example, and it was based on a policy. So would that be useful for us to have eventually, or something to look into?
Yes, Madam Mayor, absolutely, it would be. Our current policy right now just says our website and Facebook. So then when we're revamping that policy, we would definitely include which ones we're using, along with updating who's the content creator, and, do we allow comments? Do we, in timely manner, how fast do we, answer those questions? All of those details would be put in that policy.
Okay, so tonight just kind of initiates the process of updating. Yeah, 2015 and social media feels like an eternity. So probably time. So thank you for that. Any further questions or comments? Councilor Glinski?
Madam Mayor, are any of these Chinese-based? Like TikTok, maybe?
Did you want to comment on that?
That is something I'm unaware of, but we are not going to be going to do TikTok. We are going to be doing Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter, which seem to be all reputable platforms for governments to be using.
If there are no further questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
That report number clerk 2403 entitled Social Media Platform Update be received.
Mover and seconder. Councilor Leach moves, Councilor Wilson seconds, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, we move to Building Planning and Bylaw Department. We have an application for consent to sever. Do we have Mr. Steele? Yes, we do. Good evening.
Evening. Before council tonight is consent application E17-24 for 51829 York Line. Nagelhaven Farms has submitted the application on behalf of the owners to sever the existing dwelling as a surplus farm dwelling and to purchase the retained vacant farm parcel. A principal statement, county official plan, and Malahide official plan all contain criteria for permitting surplus farm dwelling severances, including but not limited to that the severed parcel is of minimum size, need to accommodate the buildings and private services, as well as the lands are appropriately zoned as, through a condition of the consent. Staff have reviewed the application in a position that meets all these criteria. There are no comments from staff on the proposal, and so staff are recommending that the application be supported. The recommended conditions be provided to Land Division Committee for its consideration. This time, I have any questions from any questions from members of council.
Thank you. Questions, Councilor Wilson?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Just looking at the photo, and I can't tell if it's a barn or a drive shed or what it is, but how close is that to the lot line? Like the house looks like it's plenty distance, but I don't want to harp on it, but I just wondered what that distance is.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councilor. So the accessory building located on the east side of the property meets the minimum 5-meter setback to the eastern property line.
Thank you for that clarification. Further comments or questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Steele. We'll entertain a motion, please.
The report number DS 2408 entitled Application for Consent to Sever number E1724 of the estate of Howard Rowe and Nagelhaven Farms, agent Colleen Rowe, be received, and that the application for consent to sever of estate of Howard Rowe and Nagelhaven Farms relating to the property located at part of Lot 2, Concession 8, Southern Division, geographic township of South Dorchester, township of Malahide, and known municipally as 51829 York Line be supported for the reasons set out in this report, and that this report be forwarded to the Land Division Committee for its review and consideration.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Wilson moves, Counselor Cerna second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Mr. Steele. Have a nice evening. Next, we move to the next section is from our CAO. First report, recruitment of summer students. CO Diaz, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is notifying council that we have gone ahead with an application to Canada Summer Jobs for the recruitment of 2 summer student positions.
Any questions or comments?
Madam Mayor, is there a grant to have these students? Does it amount to much, or a half or 3/4 or all of it?
Mr. Diaz?
Yes, I believe the Canada Summer Jobs grant that we applied to, application is generally due at the beginning of the year, and they announce which positions they will support for us in around typically May. They cover generally up to 50%. No?
I think last year it was like 1,500 to 2,000 a piece. So a student would cost about 14,000 to give that perspective.
Did that answer your question, Counselor Glinsky? 15% about, so it's a small, it sounds like a small portion. But still, a portion. Deputy Mayor Widner?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just a question, the Parks General Labor student, will they be driving around cleaning places individually by themselves, or?
I'll defer that question to Director Godsby.
Through the chair to Deputy Mayor. There may be occasions where that is the case. Typically, we do pair them with our facilities maintenance supervisor. That's more than likely, we don't send them a lot of the time by themselves, mainly just from a worker safety standpoint, and being that, we don't typically like to give overly expensive equipment to students until they're properly trained and competent to use those things.
So they won't need a special vehicle, and we used to have to rent them sometimes, and we don't need that for that then.
Through the chair, no, I do not believe that there's any intention of renting a vehicle. I believe that we can utilize our internal fleet for that.
The focus is gone, eh?
Any further questions or comments? Counselor Cerna?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wondering, do we have enough work to hire these students for the summer? Like, we've got enough employees there that seem to keep busy anyways. And to bring a couple students in and get a $1,500 grant, and I don't know how much money they're gonna make in the summer, but it just seems to me that I don't know if there's, like, we spray for weeds, I think, so they're not gonna be weed eating. I don't know what they're gonna be doing for that kind of money, and we don't seem to be getting a lot of money from the government back. It just seems like it's a make work project, and I don't think we're gonna get our money's worth out of it, so I'm just wondering if there's enough to keep them busy.
CO Diaz or?
I believe this was something that we had looked into in the past. There were formerly a lot more positions, I believe, that were covered under this, and it was eventually reduced to just the 2 positions that there are now. Perhaps Director Boylan may know what it was in the past.
Well, we had 3 students last year. One was an office student, so we've reduced that to 2 for this year, a parks and a GIS student. The GIS student is retro reflectivity. So we've talked about how many signs around the township. Director Godby could speak to it better than I could, but we're mandated to check the reflectivity of those signs, and we have found a cheap solution to do so, and that's send out a student with a radar gun. So that's the purpose of the one student. It's a lot cheaper to hire a student than have a roads operator go and do that. And then the second is the park student, park/facilities. They seem to be busy during the summer. Anecdotally, I will say they spend time cleaning up the beach. The parks require maintenance that isn't required in off season. So I think that's the justification for that person. We don't want to redirect full-time, more expensive labor to those types of tasks when we can hire a student to do it.
Counselor Surna, follow up?
Yeah, so that ties in nicely with negotiating with the government about the Port Bruce Beach agreement that they don't seem to pay a cent for. So if we have to hire somebody to do that, then they can kick in more than nothing for a project that we paid $20,000 for. So when we negotiate that deal, that should be in the back of everybody's mind. And then all of a sudden I'm happy then. Thank you.
That's what we all strive for, right? Director Godby, you wanted to comment further?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to council. That is a very good point. I just wanted to give council a very brief update that we did have our first chat with the MECP with regards to that Port Bruce Park. And generally speaking, without getting into a lot of details, further details will come later to council. But it's been some positive conversation at that time. And so I do have a lot of hope in that direction. As Director Boylan had pointed out, that park student does spend some time down there, but also allows us to do some other work within the cemeteries or other parks that otherwise we may have to look at contracting out just due to that workload. So they do a pretty good job of keeping things busy. And then just further to the civil engineering technologist GIS student, one of the things that we were able to utilize this individual for last year was improving some of our asset inventories. Sign retroreflectivity is a big item for us. We have a lot of signs and we are mandated to test those annually. We have that equipment in-house currently, which makes it affordable for Malahide to continue doing so. But with some of the other engineering tools that we've been able to acquire over the years, one of the things that we can have that engineering technologist student do is things like improving our inventories for cross culverts of our roads, where something that we didn't really have great records of. Last year, that student actually went out and gathered GIS information on all of our road crossings, so that helps us when we go to rebuild a road in the future, understand what those total costs are going to be and create better budgets and maintenance budgets going forward. So the goal again would be to identify more of those type of issues to keep that person going, because we do have some of that technology in-house already.
So back to the original question, it doesn't sound like it's make work project. It's work that needs to be done and we can use the opportunity on a seasonal basis. So, okay, thank you for those clarifications. Good to know. Councillor Leach.
To you, Madam Mayor. I'm glad to see the use of the grants program. It's very valuable. It also helps to present the township as a future workplace for the students who are able to take advantage of these. It is unfortunate that the size of the grants seem to have been reducing over the last few years.
We'll segue in our next report and succession planning. So start developing future employees. Councillor Glinski.
Madam Mayor, the reflectivity, I'll get it there eventually. Is that just for Malahide or, because I thought at one time that we did Elgin County. Does anyone know?
Director Godby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Councillor Glinski. At one time, Malahide did have agreements with some of our adjacent municipalities to do sign retroreflectivity for them as well. over the past couple of years, that's kind of fallen off. Some have been going and doing it with a contractor as opposed to paying us to do it. What the reasons are for that, I'm not quite 100% sure, but it is still something that we've had discussions again with some of our neighboring municipalities that if we do have capacity to do that and they would like us to do it, we will entertain those requests. And if possible, what we would get back is a certain amount of money that would kind of help to further offset the cost of having this student. But that being said, we currently do not have any agreement in place for 2024.
Thank you. I have one more question, if I may. Spraying was mentioned. Can somebody elaborate on the spraying process that we have and what is sprayed and what isn't? Because that's a touchy subject.
So I know that that's not on the agenda. I don't know if staff are prepared to comment on that, or is that something we could bring back?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Councillor Galinsky. I'd have to get details on our full spraying program, but generally speaking, we're not spraying parks and things like that. It's typically roadsides, guardrails, around bridge abutments, that kind of stuff where you're not necessarily able to have other means of weed control and where there are areas that are not accessed by the public. But if it is council's desire, I can get more of a detailed information on that. Annually, we do end up having to do postings as to where we are spraying, and that usually comes later in the spring. So that could also be a time to re-engage the conversation when we go through that annual posting process.
I may follow up. The poison ivy in Port Bruce would be a good place to start. But I don't know whether we can do that or not, or whether we'd be allowed to do that or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Galinsky. And so I'll encourage you, if there are specific questions you would like staff to look into, if you want to follow up with Director Godby, and then we'll see if there's additional information that would be useful for the rest of council.
It just sort of came up.
Right. Okay. Thank you. If there are no further questions or comments, the motion, please.
That report number HR 2402 entitled Recruitment of Summer Students be received, and that the Human Resources Manager be authorized to recruit 2 summer student position, one for Parks General Laborer student and one for Civil Engineering Technologist GIS student, and that the Human Resources Manager be authorized to apply for wage subsidies for these positions through the Canada Summer Jobs Program.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. Councillor Leach moves. Councillor Wilson seconds. All in favor? That's carried. The next report is also yours, Director CAO Diaz. Salary Philosophy Administration Policy Update, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this policy has been brought back to council again. There was a request to wait until union negotiations were substantially complete, and so we brought forward essentially both today, which the union negotiations will be discussed later on in the agenda. Again, the key sort of changes here that are introduced is to stop the mirroring that was there in the past, where the general increases to the non-union salary grid mirrored the QP agreement. So in this circumstance, how it will move forward will be, again, COLA increases that would be to a maximum limit of 3%. And that COLA adjustment would be determined based on the, again, the capital index in September of each year. In terms of other trends, again, it will generally move towards reaching a 50% market rate with regard to local municipalities. So a market check would be done every 4 years on that basis. These are the main changes that are being proposed in this policy.
Thank you. Another policy update. Any questions or comments? As you mentioned, this was previously introduced, so we had time to review and discuss. So tonight we're considering formally approving it. So it seems like everybody's okay with that. May I have the motion then?
The report number HR 2403 entitled Salary, Philosophy, and Administration Policy Update be received, and that council authorizes the development and implementation of the attached revised HR policy, and that it be incorporated into the HR policy manual.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. Counselor Wilson moves. Counselor Leach seconds. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Mr. Diaz. We move to the next section is reports of committees and outside boards. There were a number of reports and minutes. Any comments or questions on any of those? And I will note that the ECC January 31st, 2024 minutes should be listed as draft minutes as they have not been approved by the board. So we'll make sure that's always noted. When that's the case, anything else? So we can do one motion for the first set of reports and minutes.
That the following reports of committees and outside boards be noted and filed: Catfish Creek Conservation Authority Final Progress Report, Kettle Creek Conservation Authority December 2023 and January 4th, 2024 minutes, Long Point Region Conservation Authority minutes of January 3rd, Long Point Region Conservation Authority 2024 Inventory of Programs and Services, and the EECC January 31st, 2024 draft minutes.
Thank you. Mover and seconder? Counselor Serna moves. Counselor Leach seconds. All in favor? That's carried. And then we have a separate motion to approve the user fee at the ECC and the operating budget. Go ahead.
That the Council of the Township of Malahide approve the 2024 operational budget in the total amount of $626,320 or $313,160 per municipal partner, and that the Council of the Township of Malahide approve the 2024 EECC user fees.
Mover and seconder? You don't have to support the motion in order to move it. Counselor Wilson moves. Counselor Glinski seconds. Any further discussion or comments? Deputy Mayor Widner?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just maybe ask our treasurer, is the ice resurfacer in this amount? Or have we paid for it yet, or I guess it's there from what I hear.
So from the looks of it, what the board is asking council to approve tonight is the operating budget and user fees. The ice resurfacer would be within the capital budget, which is not being considered through a resolution tonight. So my short answer is no.
Great, thank you.
Any further discussion? So all those in favor to approve the operating budget and the user fees recommended by the EECC board. All those in favor? Those opposed? And if you do not vote, that's a negative. So the motion is defeated. Okay. Any further instruction council wants to, or correspondence to send to the EECC board? Or inquiries in terms of not being in support of the operating budget or the user fees for the board's consideration, so that the the board can receive the council's decision and be informed as to how to consider moving forward. Councillor Leach.
Madam Mayor, could we separate the two? So the user fees are separate from the operating budget?
We can. Any other considerations? And so again, this is the operating budget. It's not the capital budget that I understand from the board minute, the ECC board meeting minutes, that the board did approve and supported the operating budget. But board members requested more time and more consideration, including a tour to discuss the capital budget. There was not a lot of discussion, as you may recall, and as reflected in the draft minutes, on the operating budget. So that's why I'm looking to see if we want to send an inquiries or correspondence to the board regarding the operating budget, any concerns that council members have. Just trying to seek clarity so the board can be informed in their receiving Malahid's decision and their continued deliberation. Councillor Wilson.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I thought the main concern was with the ins and outs of what the capital budget was, not necessarily with the user fees and operating stuff, but I seem to be the only one that had that impression.
So there was a suggestion to revisit, to consider two separate motions. So the joint motion was defeated. Would council like to consider the two separate motions? So we could approve the fees or consider the fees separately from the operating budget? Is there any interest? Deputy Mayor Widner?
I can't see why we couldn't vote on separating them.
Okay. So we'll consider a new motion. So the first one regarding the operating budget. Yep, on its own.
That the Council of the Township of Malahide approve the 2024 operational budget in the amount of $626,320 or $313,160 per municipal partner.
Mover and seconder. Councilor Wilson moves. We need a seconder just to take a vote. So we voted on the joint motion that had two components to it. That joint motion was defeated. So now we're just going to take them one at a time to be clear on which, if there's a difference between the two components. So right now, there's a motion to approve the operating budget. I don't have a seconder yet. Councillor Glinsky seconds. I'll call the question. Unless there are any further questions or discussions or comments to send back to the ECC board regarding the operating budget. Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor of approving the operational budget for the ECC? Those opposed? That's 3 opposed. And 1 abstention, which is a negative. So that's defeated.
I have a question.
So I'll just conclude that motion. It is defeated. Councillor Glinsky?
It pertains to that. The committee or the person that complained about the different things not being looked after. I find it hard to vote to approve that when there appear to be so many things that are lacking. And with a full staff, I don't see why that should be the situation. And I think I said that at the meeting or something similar to that. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yes, and I believe the board, according to the minutes, the board will receive a follow-up report on that. Okay, so then the second part will stand on its own as a motion.
That the Council of the Township of Malahide approve the 2024 EECC user fees.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Leach moves. Counselor Wilson seconds. Those in favor? That's 3. Those opposed?
User fees?
Yes. So the motion is to approve the proposed changes in user fees for the ECC. Yeah,
We left the other behind, okay.
right. Okay, so that's 4 in favor. So that's carried. Okay.
Go ahead.
Deputy Mayor Widner?
Yes, thank you. Just, there is a new person in charge at the complex, so maybe this would be a good time to see what they think of some of this budget. Maybe we'll get some good input back and that could be adjusted, looked at, whatever, but I don't want to vote on this yet until they have a good look at it, so, thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is correspondence. We have 11 items. Anything you wish to comment on or endorse? Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. There's 2, the town of Mono Road Emergency Safety. It looks like there's a group, well, town of Mono would like to see stiffer fines for speeding, and that would allow maybe the town and there to have more like with automatic radar and stuff like that, so. Speeding is still a big issue. It's a big issue everywhere, and I know some of the states, you don't get to have the 20 mile an hour and 30 mile an hour where they nail you. So maybe that's, I hate to say we have to be like the states, but maybe that's something we could discuss and look at. And also, number 8, I believe. I'd like just to have our fire chief's input on that, but support for the province to expand the lifespan of fire apparatus, specifically pertaining to the replacement of fire trucks due to insurance requirements. I was watching Central Oregon's meeting there tonight and they had to buy a new one. It was $940,000.
Yeah.
And it's not wore out what they're replacing, and that's what always bugs me because insurance company driving it.
I'm gonna waffle both ways on that, so. I wouldn't support the extend the life of them because I've seen a few of the issues that we've had with the 20-year trucks now. What I would support though is a council maybe pushing towards funding from the province more. With their raising the rise and the increase of the price of the trucks. I think the province needs to start helping out the municipalities and paying for this stuff. In the US, they have grants and stuff for trucks to pay their lower tiers back for these trucks and stuff. The cost of the trucks have doubled in price in the last 10 years, so the municipalities can't keep up with that. And in order to do that, we need to get some funding from the province. So I would support the funding from the province. I wouldn't support the extending the life of the trucks.
Thank you for that clarification. Follow-up, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, thank you. Just about the life of the trucks. I know our trucks, what would our truck have on 20 years? Would it have 30,000 kilometers on it?
And I only think the trucks, a lot of the issue is either is, I'll show you some pictures after here. Well, we just got one of our pumps right now. And it's the air, it's the, not just the look of the truck and stuff like that. And mechanical, like the engine and stuff, typically will probably last longer than the time because it doesn't have a lot of miles on it, doesn't have a lot of hours on it. But it's the pumps and stuff that start deteriorating. When you have somebody's life on the other end of the truck, that's the issue I have, so.
But you could replace pumps a hell of a lot cheaper than you replace a truck.
Could. And then it starts getting into the other things where the truck that we have right now that we're replacing is 20 years old. It's starting to have a lot of issues right at this time. We're starting to get wiring issues and stuff where there's corrosion stuff that's starting to cost us money, causes grief at the calls. So on certain things, I think the extended life is on some stuff is good. I don't know so much on the trucks. I know they look good because we take care of them, but sometimes that's a little hidden. So it's the unknowns that are hard, right? And I know what you're saying. And I think maybe there's ways around things like that, but maybe not the extent of the life. Like maybe there is some down the road where they can get and still give us our insurance rating where we're putting a new chassis and new pumps and rebuilding the truck and use maybe the body shells or something like that the same price, but I think that the manufacturers and the corporate greed right now is the issue more than anything else, because when the trucks that we're replacing now, when we bought them 20 years ago, it was like $200,000, and now they're $900,000. Like, when I was talking to a manufacturer, as we're getting these prices for this new truck we're trying to buy, they're telling us, well, next month we're having a whole business operation where they're going to put 4.5% up against the whole market. So like, to me, it's almost like a collusion of building prices up, that all the manufacturers are getting together and jacking the prices themselves, because they're all like industry wide is going 4.5%. How do they get to that? So like, how do the industry wide all of a sudden need 4.5% everywhere? And they do that 2 or 3 times a year where they're rising their prices. I think there's some of these manufacturers also have the large manufacturers companies own more than one manufacturer of truck too. So the competition's not there as well. So the American dollar's not helping us. It's a numerous amount of things. So
perhaps that connects with, I think we mentioned during the budget deliberation how there's AMO is putting together advocacy towards changing the formula. So this sounds like it would fall under that, where the provincial standards is set, but then as costs change, we're still stuck with that same standard, but with significant increases. So maybe it's the whole formula that needs to be looked at. Okay. Further questions or comments? So it's the wish to then support number 8, or just, it was a good discussion? We don't have to necessarily send correspondence in support of that motion or not? What is the wish of council? Deputy Mayor Widner, did you have a specific comment on that after Director Spore's remark?
Well, I guess part of what we kind of support. I don't like the insurance companies telling us what to do. If they want to pay the freight, then they can damn well do it. But this is ridiculous. But it's been this way for 30 years, 25 years. We actually had the insurance company here and the underwriters, and we had the fire marshal here one night. And that was years ago, because I was complaining then. And if we don't do what we're supposed to do, they'll jack our insurance rates or not cover us. So they've got you, and that's too bad. But you say, a 20-year-old truck, I'd hate to have a fire call, I have a brand new truck to quit signing, because you know what the new trucks are like. They're about as reliable as nothing, so thank you.
Sorry, can you clarify that further? So the direction would be to,
Well, I'd move it on. I mean, it's our opinion. I'm sure it's not gonna do any good anyway, but
so we'll endorse
I will. But
number
it's up to this council.
8, if there's general consensus. I don't see a lot of objections, so. And now we want to consider number 11 separately, is that right? Or we can do it all together. So just to mention that for number 11, we can send the comments. So Mr. Steele provided comments to Central Elgin, so council can elect to have those comments forwarded. That sounds like that should be done. Okay, so then we'll proceed with the motion to receive all the correspondence.
That items 4 and 8 be supported. Item 11A, comments be sent to Central Elgin for follow-up, and the remaining items be noted and filed.
Mover and seconder? Let's do the mover and seconder, and then we'll all open it up for further discussion. Councillor Serna moves, Deputy Mayor Widner seconds. Further discussion, Councillor Glinski.
Getting back to number 8, the gist of the problem is there's more funding, as the fire chief said, there's more funding needed. And maybe we should be saying that in some way, other than just expanding the lifespan of the truck. But if it's all rusted out on the inside, it's not much good to you on the outside that is nice and shiny. That's why I suggest that, that there'd be a letter to, I don't know whether it goes to AMO or whether it goes to the Premier's office or wherever, but there should be something sent to increase the funding. It's one thing to say, well, in 20 years it's gone. Well, yeah, but so has the price from 4 to 900,000. That's not peanuts.
So maybe I'll suggest that we'll have a closer look at what AMO is working on and which aspects they are capturing. And if there's nothing related to that, we can always then suggest that it be added. So we'll have a closer look and we can share that amongst council just to see what are all the different, like I said, funding aspects that they're looking at. And Deputy Mayor Widner?
Yeah, thank you. Oh, thank you. I just noticed one I forgot. I thought somebody else might bring it up, but the city of Sarnia, the carbon tax cancellation. Like some of these carbon tax bills are really hurting a lot of people. I know even with our small natural gas bill, it's enough money for what I'm getting. And some of the farmers would have to use it for drying. They're getting really nailed. So, yeah, I'd like to see it canceled. I don't see where it's doing any good, but thank you.
Sorry, my microphone wasn't on. So I just want to say that there is a motion on the floor right now with a mover and seconder that didn't have number 9 included. So can I ask the mover and seconder if you are okay with the friendly amendment to include number 9? Is that a yes? Yes. Okay. So the motion, you want to reread?
The items 4, 8, and 9 be supported. Item 11A, comments be sent to Central Elgin for follow-up, and the remaining items be noted and filed.
Okay, so that's the amendment. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, that brings us to other business. Councillor Wilson.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I had some phone calls and some emails about the crosswalk in Springfield and just wanted to let everyone sort of know what's happening on that one. So.
Thank you for that. I think that would be a beneficial update for everyone. Mr. Gubby?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to council, yes, unfortunately, we've been having some issues with the pedestrian crosswalk near the school here in Springfield. The unit on the south side of the road, for reasons that currently have our technicians baffled, it keeps resetting itself essentially, and then disabling itself. The one on the north side continues to work. So if you're on the north side of the road, you press the button, the amber light will flash and provide that additional visual alert to traffic that there's somebody there. On the south side, unfortunately, that's not happening. So while we're having technicians look into this, we've currently placed a construction barrel out there that I'm sure everyone will see with an amber light on it, just to provide an additional visual cue to everyone. All that being said, I would like to, draw everybody's attention to the fact that legally all drivers are required to stop if a pedestrian is in transit across that crosswalk. There are signs, advance notice signs leading up to it. There's a sign at the location advising the same that they need to stop for pedestrians. That is enforceable under the Highway Traffic Act, regardless of the functional of those lights. The lights are an over and above addition just to try and alert motorists a little more. So really, I think a key part of the message right now needs to be that drivers need to be aware of these things and be paying attention to when they're driving through villages and looking for pedestrians. The other part is that, you know, the pedestrians should also be exercising some caution when crossing the road, even though it is a designated crossing point and the motorists are legally obligated to stop. It's still, we know that doesn't always work. It's like the speeding thing. You can't always fix driver behaviors. So I think ultimately everybody needs to just pay a little closer attention when going through that area to make sure that everyone still remains safe. As soon as we do have a better idea of what is going on with that south unit, we will definitely report back and hopefully we can get it repaired and back in operation sooner rather than later.
Thank you for that update. Any other business? Councilor Glinski.
I had a phone call and a letter to my email about the $1,900 that's being taken out of the swimming budget for the swimming pool in Aylmer. I was just wondering if, I believe you got a copy of that as well. Is that right? I was just wondering if it would warrant a letter to the particular lady explaining the situation, because there is more to it than just meets the eye. And for one thing that was pointed out to me this afternoon when I did what you said to do is check with the administrators, and there are more people using the swimming pool that do not contribute to it than what there are who actually do contribute to it. So the lady in a way is spinning her wheels, because she should be able to just go ahead and use it just like all the other high percentage of people that are using the pool. Now, does that warrant a letter to her from the township, or I don't know, just throwing it out?
Any comments on that? I did have a chance to follow up with the individual and provide a clarification. So I don't know if the correspondence was not officially received, like issued to council and received by council in council meeting. So we don't necessarily have to issue actual correspondence from, but it doesn't mean that we can't. It's the will of council. Okay.
My recommendation would be all council needs to discuss it before it has to be done. Proper piece of correspondence, so that can be done request.
Right. So we'll clarify with the individual.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Everyone can see.
Yes. So I think what would be appropriate, and thank you, Mr. Diaz, would be, I will follow up with the individual to further clarify if that is her wish that her email be received by all of council as correspondence, at which point then we can discuss it and decide if we wish to respond. Okay, so I will endeavor to do that. And Director Boylan?
I just wanted to clarify something because that was the source of the information. I probably didn't explain myself well. 20% of the participants at the pool are from non-participating municipalities. So not a majority, but a significant portion at least. I just wanted to make sure that's clear for the record. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councilor Cerna?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Could you repeat that again, please, for me?
20% of the participants at the pool are from municipalities outside of Malahide and Aylmer who are not financially contributing to the pool.
Any other business? Deputy Mayor Widner?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just going back to Director Godby, that's been down for a while, that crosswalk light, I guess, eh?
Through the chair to Deputy Mayor. Yes, unfortunately it has. We've had a number of issues. They've been out a couple times already to look at it and run a couple different diagnostic tests on that southern unit. And twice they honestly left thinking that they had fixed and found the problem. And then, by the next day or two, there's something going on in the charging system or the solar panel or the battery pack. There's some sort of interference going, and it's charging and then discharging itself, and then not resetting. So we're still chasing our tails a little bit.
So, yeah, thank you. The north one's the brain, the south one has to talk to it. And they're not communicating, so.
Just further to that, they can act independently. So what'll happen is, say if you're on the north side and you press the button, it will send a signal to the one on the south side to say, hey, you turn on too. And the one on the south side would do the same on the north. If you're on the south, you trigger it, it would tell the north one to come on. So there's no actual physical connection between the two. That's why the one on the north will still continue to work if you're on that side to push the button. But when you're on the south side, it's just dead. And then it can't even send the signal to the one on the north side just to activate. So that's kind of the baffling thing with new technology sometimes.
Over engineered. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to bylaws. What do we have today? The correspondence. Do you have the resolution?
That the following bylaw be considered read at first, second, and third reading and properly signed and sealed 2406, 2024 user fees and rates.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. So this is Malahide user fees. Counselor Leach moves, Deputy Mayor Widner seconds, all in favor, and that's carried. So we're now ready to move into closed session. May I have the motion, please? So we'll go into recess once we move into closed session.
The council move into closed session at 9:03 PM pursuant to section 239-2 of the Municipal Act as amended to discuss the following. 1, labor relations or employee negotiations matter relating to QP contract negotiations, 239-2D, and personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees relating to the fire department, section 239-2B.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Serna moves, Counselor Wilson seconds, all in favor, and that's carried. Now out of closed session, may I have the motion, please?
That's during the closed session, staff were given direction by council on the following items that were discussed. Labor relations or employee negotiation matter relating to QP contract negotiations and personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees relating to the fire department.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Serna moves, Counselor Wilson seconds, all in favor, and that's carried. So we can now move to confirmatory bylaw.
That bylaw number 2407, being a confirmatory bylaw, be given first, second, and third reading and properly signed and sealed.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Leach moves, Deputy Mayor Widner seconds, all in favor, and that's carried. Which means we're ready for adjournment. The motion.
The council adjourned its meeting at 9:51 PM to meet again on March 7th at 7:30 PM.
Mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Widner moves, Counselor Serna seconds, all in favor, and that's carried. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening and the long weekend.